Hello and welcome to this video. Today I'm going to show you how to use Blender to create two different chair types. So first off, I'm going to start by deleting the cube. In fact, no, I'll keep it. So what I'm going to do is create a really angular kind of chair with this one, like a wooden chair. So first thing, I'm going to use the S key to scale it. And I'm going to hit Z then, and I'm trying to aim for this kind of pizza box shape. So about there will do me. Now I'm going to apply this transformation. If you don't apply it, it screws up later. So I'm going to go to Object in the corner, then Apply, and then Rotation and Scale. So we've got that. Now if I hit the Tab key, it will go into Edit mode. If I hit it again, it will go into Object mode. So that's the same as clicking this button here. So I'm going to go to Edit mode. Now I'm zooming in, rolling the wheel on my mouse, and I'm going to hit Control R, and this will give me this pink loop when I'm in this kind of position with my mouse near the middle on the edge of the shape. So I want two of them loops, so I'm rolling the wheel until I get two, and then I'm hitting return twice, and I'm going to do exactly the same over here. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to roll my view around, so I'm going to hold the middle mouse button. I'm going to orbit around until I can see the bottom edge of the shape. I'm then going to go into polygon mode here, or face mode, and then you click holding down the shift key near the little black dots in the middle of the face. So now I've done that, I can extrude the feet of the chair out. So to extrude, you hit the letter E, or on the keyboard, you can hit one of these extrude buttons here. Okay, so you see extrude region is the same as E on the keyboard. So I'm going to hit E, I'm going to come down here, and that will give me chair legs, and I click there to confirm it. Cool. Now, before the shape gets too complicated, I'm going to put in a few seams for the UV unwrapping. So first off, I like to be in wireframe mode for this, so I'm going to click on wireframe. I'm then going to go into edge mode, which is this one here in the middle of these three, and I'm going to click on that face there. And basically I'm going to select all the pieces that will make the base of the chair up. If you're not seeing it in this kind of ghost mode, you need to click on the wireframe button down here. Okay, so I'm on the wireframe mode. I'm shift clicking and I am selecting around all these basic shapes. So I get this cross, which is the base of the chair. Now on the left, I go to shading and UVs and I mark them as a seam. So when I hit A, you'll see the red line around the edge. Now what I'm aiming to do here is put a seam line everywhere I want to unwrap the shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click one here and one here, and I think I'll have one on that edge and one on that edge, like that. And I might do the same on these pieces actually on the outer edge. So if you can read the model, I've kind of got two edges on each shape like that selected. So then I'm going to shading and UVs on the left here, and I'm going to mark the seam like that, and then A to deselect. So now I've got a few seams in place. Now I'm going to go now to select the base of the chair. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the edges of the base. In fact, I don't need to do all of them, thinking about it. I just need two on each edge. So I'm holding down my shift key, I'm on edge mode, and that will give me two like that. So now what I'm going to do is, actually sorry, I do need to select all of them. Okay. I'm just thinking ahead what I might need. So that'll put a separate face on the bottom of each of them. So then I mark the seam again. Cool. Now, I'm just thinking ahead again to what I might need. So I'm going to mark a UV coordinate there and there and there and there. So I've got these 4 little vertical lines here. So I'm going to put them to seams as well. So when I extrude this face here and here up to make the chair back, that will separate it out to a separate piece then on the UV coordinates. So the UV coordinates, by the way, are the texture coordinates for the object. So that's that. I've got all the coordinates, all the seams in the right places where I need them. So now I can go back to face mode at the bottom here, and I'll go into solid mode so I can read it easier. So I'm going to select this face and this one, and then hit E to extrude, and I'm kind of going halfway up the back of the chair like that. Now the reason being that I'm going to put a section in the middle that goes across so that the chair back has something at the back of it. So I'm going to hit E again. This area here, across here, will be bridged across then. And then E again, and that's kind of going to the top of the back of the chair. So now I'm going to select that face and that face. And then I am going to hit delete on the keyboard. So that's the delete key, or if you're on a laptop keyboard like me, it's function and then backspace if you haven't got a numeric pad. So I'm going to delete the faces, which leaves a hole behind like that. Now if you change your view around so you get a flatter view like this, and go to edge mode, you can select that edge and then that edge. So I've flipped to edge mode here, sorry, I forgot to say that. So I've got this one selected and this one. And then on the keyboard you hit F, and F is face mode, so it puts a face in between them. So I move my view like this so I don't have to move the camera around too much. It's more efficient then. So now I'm selecting that edge, and that edge, and I'm hitting F. So I don't do the front one because it'd cover the back one, then I'd have to change the camera. So now I'm selecting that one, and that one, and I'm hitting F, then that one, and that one, and finally that one, and then F. So that gives me an overall chair shape like that. Now I'm going to select those 3 lines and those 3 lines, and I'm going to mark a seam on the left. So that's under the shading and UVs part of the machine. Now I'm also going to do a similar thing here. I'm going to select those 3 edges, and I'm going to mark them as a seam. And I'm going to select the top ones. So normally I select these seams when I'm done. So I've gone a bit back to front here. Now this edge and this edge needs selecting. And then on the underside, that one, and then I'm marking them as seams. Okay, now finally I'm going to select that one, and that one, and mark them as seams. And now I've got all the seams hopefully in the correct place. I've probably forgotten a few. Yep, I've forgotten 2 here. That one and that one. Mark seam. Cool. And you kind of try and hide the seams where possible. So I'll need 1 here. Perfect. Cool. So hopefully I've got all the seams in the right spot. Now I've spotted one little error that I forgot to do. That one, whoops, got to hold down the shift key. That one, and that one, and then mark them as a seam, and that gives me the top edge then of the chair. So now each part of the chair is hopefully UV unwrapped correctly, or at least the seams are in the right place ready for UV unwrapping. So now on the keyboard I can hit A to select all, and then U to UV unwrap them. And basically I'm going to go to the unwrap button here. Cool. Now in the top right you've got this diagonal line icon. You click and drag it to the left, and in the bottom left corner of it you see I'm in the 3D view mode. I want to be in the UV and image editor mode. Now if I've done my job correctly, I should have something similar to this. So this is all the individual flat faces that I want for this chair to texture it. and this should be in proportion, and that's why at the beginning, if I just go back to object mode on the left here, that's why I applied my rotation and scale. If I didn't do that, they'd all be distorted in there, they'd all be kind of crushed. So I'm flipping back into edit mode, and what I've got there is good. Yours may look different, and that's because you're on a different processor, it does a different sum, and it lays them out differently, basically. So, I've got all these in the correct spot. I'm happy with what I've got. Normally I'd give them a little bit of breathing room, so I'd give a little bit of gap around, and that's what this mode here is for. So you see I can click on the individual face, and I can basically use my click and a drag to move them around a bit. So I normally give them a little bit of breathing room like that, just so that they're not on top of each other. So always spread them out basically. Sometimes it's easier said than done. I'm going to move that into that gap. I'll bring that one down a smidge. That one needs to come a bit separate from there. Good. You see there I'm getting each individual section of the chair sorted here. So this one here is probably the base underneath the chair, at a guess. Okay. So I like that. Just moving this one up a little bit. Now I'm just going to select them all, so I'm going to hit A twice, I'm going to hit S, and I'm just going to scale them down a smidge. I just need a little bit more room on my canvas. So I just want to space them out. I don't want them touching each other if possible. So give them a little bit of a border. So I'm just moving them around. See here, look, they were overlapping. That's why I had to scale everything a little bit. Good. So I'm happy with that now. Now, on the bottom left of this window now, I'm going to change it to Node Editor. Okay. And on this left window, I'm going to change it from Edit Mode here to Object Mode. Okay. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply a material to it. So in the top right, I'm just going to have to spread this window out a little bit. I'm going to hit this little ball icon here, the checkerboard ball icon, and that's the material icon. So below this, it's got a name. I'm going to call this wood, like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change it, top center of the screen here. You see where it says Blender Render? I'm going to change that to Cycles Render, like that. And if you've done it right, when this says Cycles Render at the top here, you see you've got Use Nodes on the right here. So I'm going to click that, and this will give me this node layout here. Now I'm going to go to where it says Diffuse BSDF, and I'm going to change it to Principled, like that. Cool. Now, next up, I'm going to click on the little dot to the right of this white colour on base colour, and I'm going to go to Image Texture. Then I've got an Open button here, look, so I'm going to click that, and I'm going to go into my Textures folder, and I've got a wood pattern on here somewhere, so I'm just going to locate it. I believe it's under my D drive, and it's in my Textures folder, and I'm going to use this wood floor texture that I've downloaded, and the colour channel is the colour channel for it. So that's that. Now I'm not seeing it on the left here yet because I'm in solid mode, so I'm going to change solid mode to material mode, and now I can see my texture on each different face, like that. Okay. Now next up, I'm just going to move this image texture tab over here a bit. I've got the roughness tab. So in here, I'm going to put a gloss map in it. So down here on the right, where it says roughness, 0, 0 being perfectly reflective, I'm going to click on the dot to the side of it, and I'm going to put an image texture on if I can find it. Where is it? There you are. So there's the image texture. This gives me this new node here. I'm going to zoom in on it. Okay, and I'm going to hit this open button next to it. And basically I'm going to look for that same folder I used before. So here is my gloss map here. Okay, so that's the gloss in. Now the gloss isn't colour information, so colour here changes to non-colour data. Okay, and the gloss of it is actually the wrong way round. So I'm going to hit, in this window here, I'm going to hit Shift A on the keyboard, and I'm looking for colour and then invert. And then I'm dumping it on this little noodle line here. So it goes from the alpha of the image texture into the colour into the roughness. In fact, that shouldn't be alpha, that should be going to the colour channel. So I'm going to join colour into colour like that. Okay, so now that should behave itself now. So that's the roughness sorted. Now the final thing I'm going to do on this, you see it's catching the light nicely here, I'm going to put a normal channel in. So in this window again, I'm going to hit Shift A, I'm going to go to Texture and Image Texture and dump it in, and join the yellow dot to the normal one. Now yellow can't go to blue, so in between here I've got to put a normal map node in. So in this window I'm going to hit Shift A, I'm going to go to Vector and then Normal Map, and then I'm going to click it down on that line. Now something has gone wrong here, not sure what. Oh no, it's just a glitch on my graphics card. So it's actually working. So we've turned the colour information into a normal map and linked it to the normal node. Perfect. Now if you want a little bit of control over the scale of the texture, in this window here I'm going to hit Shift A, I'm going to go to Mapping, and this will give me this node here, and I'm going to link the blue dot to the vector dot on the left of each of my image textures, like that. Now that's destroyed the texture on the surface here, and the reason being is I need to tell it on the left side of this that its vector is a UV coordinate. So I'm going to hit Shift A in this window, and then I'm going to look for the icon that I always forget. It's around here somewhere. I believe it's UV map, could be wrong, nope, I'm wrong. So Shift A, it is texture coordinate, that's the one. And what I'm doing is I'm going to link that UV to that blue dot there, and then you see the texture is returned. Now if you want to change the scale of the texture, you can zoom into the mapping node here. If I zoom in on here, that's better on the left, you can see what I'm doing then. You'll see you've got scale. Now if I put a bigger number, I'm going to put 5 in each of these. That makes the texture much more dense. If I put a lower number in, like 0.2, do it on each box, cool. That makes the texture spread over a wider area. So I'm going to say 1 is fine in each of these. So I was happy with the original scale, but at least now it's in, you can change the scale of the texture if you need to. So I'm happy with that, that's all good. Now in the left hand window, on the diagonal lines in the top right corner, I'm going to click and drag them to the right, and that brings this arrow here up. So for a long time I couldn't work out how to get rid of these extra windows. So you drag that arrow into the right hand window, the arrow appears, and then you let go. Cool. Now, we've got a chair. I'm in object mode on the left here, so if you're in edit, flip it to object. And then I'm going to hit G, which is translate, which allows me to move the object around. And I'm going to hit Z, which allows me to move it up and down. And basically, I'm going to align it so that the bottom edge is pretty much on in alignment with these lines here. So you see these lines aren't cutting through it, therefore it's on top. Now, I want to control it from the base of the chair. The 3D coordinate is already in the middle of the screen. If you hit N on the keyboard, that brings this side panel up here, which is also what this plus key does. So if you hit that, scroll down, you see the 3D cursor, the location is at a 0. Perfect. So I'm going to hit N to get rid of that side thing again. And then under the object menu, I'm going to go to transform and then origin to 3D cursor. And that moves the origin from here, a random position, down to the 0 coordinate, meaning my chair is now controlled from the bottom edge. So that's all good. Now I'm just going to click on this light source and delete it. I think that was what was giving me these weird, these texture things that were popping up over it, these shadows. So it doesn't matter, we're going to put another light source in a minute anyway. So that's all good now. Now I'm going to put a floor into my scene. Oh no, I'm not. I'm going to draw the other chair that I'm going to do. So I'm going to get a plastic kind of moulded looking chair next, which is a little bit more difficult than what we've done here. So in this window, I'm going to hit Shift A. I'm going to go to Mesh and then Plane. And I'm going to drag it off to the right here. So I'm using the red axis to nudge it off to the right. Cool. Now, on the object menu, I'm going to go to Edit Mode, and I'm going to make sure I'm on Edges mode. So on these three little orange icons there, it's the middle one. And I'm going to click that back edge and use the blue axis to drag it up so it's roughly in alignment with where that chair is on the left, the top edge of the chair. Probably give it a little bit more. Cool. Now, I'm going to turn this into kind of a Z shape. So this first part, top part of the Z will be the back of the chair, the middle will be the seat, and then the bottom will go to the back of the shape somehow. So I'm going into edit mode, I'm already in there, look. Remember, it's tab on the keyboard. I'm near this end here, so I'm near the middle on the side, and I'm going to hit Control R, which gives me this pink line. I'm going to roll the mouse until I've got 2 of them, then click, and then click again. So now I can click one of them and use the blue axis to drag it down and the green to drag it back. That will create the chair back. Then I'm going to move the front one up until it roughly looks horizontal, and then left. Something like that. Excellent. So I've got kind of this S-bend shape, like that, or Z shape. So now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to put the mouse about here and hit Control R, which gives me a center point. So then I'm going to hit Return twice. And now I'm going to put a little bit of shape into the chair. So I'm going to Vertex mode. I'm going to click on that one there. So Vertex is the left one of these 3. And I've got that one selected. And I'm going to shift click on that one. And then just drag them down a smidge like that. Okay, so it kind of puts kind of a point at the back of the chair. Then I'm going to select that one and use the green axis to move them back a bit, like that. Then I'm going to select that one, and I'm going to move them down a bit to create a bit of a bucket on the chair. And then I'm going to pick that one, and then move them right the way back like that. In fact, no, sorry. Control Z map. I'm going to move just the middle one. I'm going to put that at the back like that. That's better. So that's roughly the chair shape that I'm after. So what I'm going to do now is, I've got the rough shape. I need a little bit of extra information on here. I'm just going to put a bit more shape into the chair. So I'm going to put the mouse about here and Control R, and then click twice, which will give me this middle control point. I can then click on that dot, that vertex, sorry, and that point, and I'm going to move them up ever so slightly. In fact, I'm going to hit Control Z. I've done it in the wrong order. I need some information there and there now. So I'm going to actually put the mouse here, Control R, click, click, and then there, Control R, click, click. That's better. So that gives me these other little control points that I can work with. So I want that vertex and that one, and I want to move that up a little bit like that. So it kind of puts a moulded shape on the chair base. And I'm going to move this one forward a smidge, like that. Perfect. Then I've got this point, and I'm going to select the opposite one as well. I'm going to hit S to scale, and then X to scale in one direction only, and I'm roughly going to put it about there. So I wanted those 2 points moving out a little bit. Cool. Now, I've got everything roughly where I want it. Now, the next job is I'm going to put like a kind of a border around the edge here. So I'm putting the mouse on that line there and hitting Control R, click, and then move it off to the side. Then there, Control R, and then move it off to the side. So you see then, it gives me this kind of border, and this will give me kind of a smoother edge at the edge there. It's hard to explain, but it's like a grid. The tighter the lines are together, the tighter the curve will be. So if I'd have left it open, this would have been a really wide curve, whereas now it's got this little kind of border, so it will kind of curve in quickly. And I need to do a similar thing now on this face here. So I'm in this spot here, Control R again, and I click, and I bring it up to about there. And then that will give me a nice tight curve at that point there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put one in here and here to put an angle on the backrest. So I'm on this spot again, Control R again, click, and I'm going to put it about there. Okay, and then I want one here. So Control R on this spot, whoops, escape, Control R, that's better. And I want it about there. So that will give me kind of a tight curve there. To shape the back of the chair a little bit, I'm going to put one in the middle as well. So Control R here, click, click, there. And I'm actually going to just select, if you hold down the Alt key and click once on this edge, you'll see it will select the entire row. So I'm going to hold down Shift and click this one and this one. And then I'm just going to move the chair ever so slightly back like that. So it gives a little bit of kind of a kink in the backrest. Now I'm still in vertex mode. I'm going to select that topmost point and then the one below it and just drag it down a bit, just to kind of put a bit of a radius on the top like that. So what I'm exactly doing will become a lot more apparent in a second when I put the actual subdivision on it, which will smooth it out. So I need to put an extra kind of bend line here on this face, so I'm going to hit Control R again here, and I'm going to bring it forward to about there, so that will give me quite a tight angle at the front, and then I need to do a similar one here. So I'm going to put it about there, so that will put a radius on there for me, and then I need one at the base here, so Control R on that direction to about there. Ideal. Now I'm just going to select these few points here and use the green arrow just to nudge it back a bit, just to get a little bit more shape into the chair. And I'm going to select that point, and that point. And I'm going to move them ever so slightly forward like that. That's better. And that will just shape it nicer in a minute. Now, I'm on this part here. I'm going to hold down Alt and click, and that will select me that entire outer row. Then holding Shift and Alt, I'm going to do the same on the opposite side, and I'm going to hit Extrude, which extrudes the edge. Now, I want it in the Y-axis, so I'm going to come to the right here like that, and I'm going to click it down just outside like so. Then I'm going to click on the G tool, which is translate. I'm going to come down in the Z axis, so I'm hitting Z, like that. Okay, so that gives me a little bit of a radius on the back. So that will kind of look like a fold line going around the back of the chair. Now this point and this point need moving up to the 0 coordinate. So I'm going to hit the little plus in the top right or the letter N on the keyboard to get the side panel back. And on the Z axis, look, you see this is the Z coordinate, this is the up down. I'm going to put that to 0. And then look, you see it's in alignment then with the base of the chair. Now I'm going to take a bit of a guess on the back one. So I'm selecting that point, holding Shift and clicking that one. And I'm just going to eyeball this. I'm going to drag on the blue axis and move it up a little bit. There, perfect. So I've got my rough shape. I'm going to clear this off the side here, so I'm going to hit N. Brilliant. And then on the right here, I'm looking for the spanner icon. But first, I'm going to change edit mode to object mode. And then I'm on the spanner icon on the right here. So I'm going to click add modifier and then subdivision surface. And you see that smooths the shape out. And if I change the view subdivisions up, I'm going to put mine to about 3, and then the render ones up, and I'm going to put that to about 6. You'll see now I've got a nice curvy shape like this. Cool. And then at any point I can go back to object, edit, and I can change this kind of grid. So if you don't like how curvy that chair back is there, you can select that back point, and it's one above, look, and drag it in, and that'll put a much nicer kind of curve on the underside of the chair there. I'm going to select that one and that one, and that one and that one, and I'm going to bring them back slightly. There. So it's much more supported. So I'm going to tab out of the edit mode, like that, sorted. And you see then I've got a really nice looking little chair going off. Cool. Now I'm going to put kind of a red plastic material on it. So on the right here, I'm going for the ball with the checkerboard icon. Then I'm going to click on new, and then I'm going to rename this red plastic. Cool. Whoops, can't spell plastic. Red plastic. That's better. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the diffuse BSDF. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to go to principled BSDF. So this puts it in the fancy shader. Roughness is at 0, so that will give me a perfect reflection. And this is my base colour, which I'm going to click on, and I'm going to colour it the colour I want my chair to be. So I'm going to go with something like that. Cool. So I've got a nice red chair going off now. And that should catch the light nicely. So what I'm going to do now is put a floor in to catch the shadows. So in this window, in object mode, I'm going to hit Shift A, Mesh, and then Plane. Then I'm going to hit S to scale it. I'm going to make it nice and big, reasonably big, it doesn't need to be huge. And then I'm going to use the red axis to move it over a bit. Perfect. Cool. Now, final thing to do, add a light in. So on the right here, you've got a little world icon. I'm going to click on that, and you see it says use nodes. It'll only say that if you're in the cycles render at the top here. So if it says blender render, you're in the wrong mode. You need to go into cycles render and then use nodes. Now the colour is currently a grey, which will give you a horrible grey in the background. So I'm going to click the little dot on the right here to the right of the dark grey, and I'm going to go to environment texture. Okay, and that gives me the option to open here. So what I've done is I've downloaded off the internet from a website called HDRI Haven at HDRI texture, which is where the lighting information will be. So I'm going to click HDRIs here at the top. I wanted it outdoors, and then basically you can pick the scene that you're interested in. So I think I've gone for kind of like a sunset in Venice. So there's one in here. Oh, this is a nice one. I like that one. I'm going to click on that. Then I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm looking for this part here. Now, the bigger the texture, the more information you're dealing with, the slower the render will get. 2K is more than enough for what we're doing today. So I'm going to hit the 5.7 meg 2K one, which will download it. And I'm going to stick that in my textures folder there. So that's downloaded now. So I'm going to go back into Blender. I'm going to hit the open button on the right here, which is below environment texture. So remember, you're on the world icon. You've put the environment texture on just now, and then I'm going to hit open to find that texture I downloaded, which for me will be in my D drive under textures. And there it is. Okay, now to see the final result, what we're going to do is, next to object, you've got this kind of textured ball here. This is the texturing mode. So if you click on it, it's called material mode, sorry, you can go to rendered. And then you should get something similar to what I've got here. And you'll see, if your machine's quite quick, you can move the view around, look, and you'll see you get nice reflections in the plastic. And the wood also should be reflective to a certain extent. And you can basically light the scene with that image. Okay. Now, I've got a camera in this scene. So on the right here, I've got camera. I'm going to click it so it's white. I'm going to go to the view menu in the bottom left corner and go to cameras and then active camera, like that. So this is what the camera is currently seeing. Now I'm going to hit the little plus in the top right in this window, or the letter N on the keyboard, and I'm going to lock camera to view. So now when I move the camera, you see the frame moves with me. And basically I'm going to position the camera where I want it to be. So I want it to be somewhere about here. Yeah, that looks good to me. Cool. Then I untick the lock camera to view button, and then I see I can zoom in the frame then like that and make it nice and big. Awesome, so we're nearly there now. So I'm going to hit N to get rid of this side menu and declutter, and I'm going to the camera icon here on the right. So the camera is here. Now, device is on CPU at the moment. So if I click on that, I can change it to GPU compute, which will draw quicker for me. Cool. The resolution is 1920 by 1080, so 1920 pixels wide by 1080 high, and you see it's on 50%. So it will actually render at half that resolution. So I'm going to drag that 50% up to 100% here. Then I'm going down to sampling at the bottom here. I'm going to click on the little triangle to open it. And you see sampling presets. I'm going to click that. I want final. Cool. So I've set my view up. I've set my resolution up to 100%. And I've set the sampling to final. So if you're ready to render now, under the render menu in the top left, you've got render image, which is also F12 on your keyboard. So it might be function F12 if you're on a laptop, but if you just go to the render menu, you can hit render image. And then that will then draw the image. Excellent. So now the video is complete now. The modelling and the rendering is all complete. I've rendered the image out, and the final thing is to save the image. So under the image menu in the bottom left corner, you click it and you've got save as image. And then you basically point it to where you want to save. I'm going to put mine on my D drive, and I'm going to call this chairs. Like that, and then save away. Cool. So that's how you basically model two different kinds of chairs. So what it is it's called polygon modeling. That's what I did for this here. And basically I did the same for this here. But all I did on that one was turn the polygon mesh that I did here into kind of a smooth frame. So I smoothed it out using the subdivision modifier on the right here. If I've got my chair selected, it's around here somewhere. So using the modifier here, so it allows you to model something in a very simple way, but then turn it into a nice smooth curvy object. And the final result is pretty good, to be honest. Excellent, so that ends the tutorial. Now, this is actually a stealth review here. What I've actually done is, all of this was actually modelled on a remote computer called the Shadow. So if you go to a website called shadow.tech, you can subscribe to this monthly. You can subscribe monthly to this computer. It's about £26 per month, and if you use my code in the description below, you can get £10 off your first month for it. And I think it's excellent. It's set up for gamers, so it's a gamer spec computer. It lives in Paris in my case, and I remotely log into it. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm actually using it on a Mac. So it looks like Windows, but when I hit, where's the button? I always lose it. Alt-Command-F, you'll see I'm actually working inside a Mac here. It's a program on a Mac, but it gives me a full Windows computer. And it's a powerful computer as well. And it's got a 1000 gigabit a second download speed and a 200 megabit a second upload speed. And I think it's got 12 gigs of RAM, and I believe it gives you 256 gigs of hard drive space by default, as well as it's either an 8-core or a 12-core processor. And for what you're getting, it's brilliant. It's, like I said, it's set up for gaming stuff. It doesn't handle gaming stuff very well, but it handles the creative stuff that I do brilliantly. Okay, and I can't rate it highly enough. It's a little bit odd to try and get files onto it, but you have to use services such as Google Drive or Dropbox or something like that, and you can transfer it over. But if you've got a Windows 10 machine with a USB 3 port, or the newly released Shadow Ghost, which is kind of their lightweight hardware for it, if you've got USB 3, you can actually transfer directly from that and use USB 3 devices. So you can put a pen drive in that and then upload from that, and it will go straight to the cloud. And it needs, I think, a bare minimum of a 15 megabit internet connection. I've got 200, so I'm good there. But I think it's excellent for what you get. And the joy is it's remote, so your local machine is actually not working that hard at all. All the work's being done on a remote machine, so if you're recording stuff like this, you can get nice clean audio from it. So like I said, excellent. So it means your machine's barely working and you're remotely logging into a remote machine, which also means you can install it on things like iPads or Android tablets or mobile phones, and you can have a really low spec machine. For instance, my machine, if I look in the Apple menu here about this Mac, is a 2013 13-inch MacBook Pro with 8 gig of RAM, and it did that in approximately 9.5 minutes. If I was to render that on my normal Mac, that would take a good 40 minutes. So that concludes my review. Try out Shadow, you'll love it. It's a monthly subscription, and I believe you can cancel it at any time, but I really rate it. It's excellent. So if you want to try it out, you can try my £10 off code, which gives you the first month for £10 off, and I'll leave that in the description for you. So the website to visit is shadow.tech. Okay, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and leave a like for me, and I'll see you next time.